Steve.
Mitch, hey mate, what's going on?
Oh, mate, everything. Big morning out at Adamstown. Come home, had some lunch, chatting to you about to walk the dogs.
So it's all happening. It's all happening for hump day.
Yeah, well, it looks like there might be a bit of rain about. I don't know if it's going to get a bit of sprinkling, but I've come over a bit overcast, so get the dogs out. They're driving me a bit nuts. They want to walk, so I'll be out and about with them shortly, but need to jump on and do our daily lockdown chat.
I'm excited here. I got two good ones today.
Another overrated, underrated. So might have you leading the way this morning. I had a little bit of clapback from our grilled conversation yesterday.
Not happy.
Yeah, just difference of opinion, which is fine.
Fuming. What about some of the people that said that Arvo naps were definitely underrated? Okay, so let's just creating a little bit of conversation and a little bit of banter amongst people, which is probably what we want at this time. Actually,
that's pretty much all we're after from this. So
that's actually it. So I've got two today.
Yep.
The first one, I think a lot of people can have a real big opinion on, and the second one,
COVID backs.
No, maybe we're not going too controversial. We're not going too controversial here. And then the second one, most people will know what I'm talking about, but I think some won't have as much of an opinion as other people.
Okay.
So my first one is recording moments from concerts / sporting events on your phone.
That's a really good one.
I'm here all week. I've got plenty of them. It's a toughie, mate. It's tough because...
Probably... Oh, man.
Is it rated or is it underrated or is it overrated?
Probably...
Think about when you went to that Eminem concert. Think about randomly just whipping out your phone, recording a little bit of Lose Yourself, and the music, you got the camera there. And looking back on it, what would have you thought? Do you think that was wise at that time?
Oh, man.
It's a toughie. You've got him stumped.
I think it's probably maybe my first thought, which I'll stick with, bounce back and forth, is probably that it's a little bit overrated.
Okay.
A little bit overrated. And the reason for that is obviously, well, the main thing, pretty much the only thing is you're missing you're actually, quote Eminem, but you're actually missing the moment if you're watching it through your phone.
And you just got to own it, the music, the moment. You own it. Never let it go.
You only get one shot.
Do not miss your chance to play.
So a little bit overrated because, I mean, if you're at a concert, it's an hour-long set, and you get your phone out for 15 seconds, you're not really missing much. Like that, I think that's probably underrated. But people that sit there with their phone out like the whole time, every song for a minute or 2 minutes, every song, then that is overrated because you're actually missing so much of what you went to, which is the live concert. But in saying that, I do understand that you want to get a bit of footage from it so you can look back in 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, like you've got it forever. And even if it is like crappy footage or whatever, like it's cool to have that video forever. So I think a short stint or a couple of short stints, probably a bit underrated, but people who are just, like I said, holding that phone up for the majority of the concert, overrated. Same for sport.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's very, very much overrated, and I put myself in the situation of. So I went to the 2016 NRL Grand Final, Sharks versus the Storm, and if like anyone watching that game, they knew the history behind it. The Sharks had won a comp 49 years, whatever, and it literally came down to the last play of the game where the Storm went 90 meters and the hooter sounded, and they're still throwing the ball around 10 meters out from our try line. Now, there are so many people out there, and I've seen it on YouTube, there are so many people that have that last set recorded on their phone right? Now, this is where I think it is completely overrated, because when you have, like, obviously when you have your phone out, you're not really in the moment at that period in time.
No.
You're in like two trains of thought. You're like, oh shit, I better get a good shot here. Oh shit, I'm in the moment. You're sort of like jumping in and out. Whereas in that minute, I was completely and utterly in the moment. Like, it's a moment in time that I will never forget. I'll never get back. And I think if I was on my phone at that period in time, it wouldn't have hit me as hard as what it did when we won the game. So,
agreed.
And I'm all for, like, at parts of certain concerts where, you know, you whip your phone out or whatever, because I've done it before as well. So the last concert I went to was Elton John at Kudos Bank Arena. That was mad. That was so good. He was there for 4 hours. It was sick. And there were parts of it where I think you just got to pick the parts of the concert wisely. So you see a lot of people whipping their phone out for the intro, some of the big key moments, and I just think you just got to slide in at the right time, I think.
Especially if it's like your favorite song or something. You don't want to be watching and listening to that through your phone. Like, you want to be embracing that.
No way.
You're all up in it. So
no way. So there was a part, like, in the Elton John concert. So my favorite Elton John song.
I went to Elton John too last year, just before COVID hit. He's awesome.
Yeah. Well, my favorite Elton John song is probably Tiny Dancer or Benny and the Jets.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my phone out at any point for that. But, like, there were parts in this song called Indian Dreaming or something, I think it was called. And Elton was just, like, whipping out a mad, like, piano solo. And I was like, righto, I'll whip this out because he was playing it for about 4 minutes. So I was like, yeah, I can whip this out. And the crowd's going bananas and whatever. But I just think it's about choosing your moments wisely.
Yeah, I agree. You want it. I mean, you'd probably be flat out to find anyone who doesn't record something at, like, a concert or whatever. But you certainly don't want to be that guy that's on it just the whole time or in very, important moments.
Do you know what's crazy? At the grand final, I did not record an ounce. I recorded nothing. No run.
You weren't even there, were you?
No, I wasn't there. That's if you look back on my memories on October 2, 2016, you'll see nothing.
Yeah.
Wasn't there.
Except for a few statuses, I'm sure.
No, only the one, mate. Yeah, only the one.
Yeah, good. That's a good question. Good question.
Thank you.
I'll be interested to hear what people have to say about that.
Yeah, I think it's something that can definitely spark a bit of debate between everybody.
Ask people on Zoom this afternoon. See what they say.
What they think. All right. I've been asking them questions every day, so that might be my question for today.
All right, my one, and this is very broad, but I'll be interested to see how you interpret it, and then obviously I've got my take on it too. So, overrated or underrated? Netflix.
Oh, absolutely, 100% overrated.
Why?
100%. There's just so much shit on there. There's just way too much. There's waste. I just think, again, it's the same as the menus with too much stuff on it. Like, if I go to a restaurant and there's 10 things to choose from, then I'm happy, because I'm like, okay, I can really narrow it down. I spend most of my time on Netflix browsing, which is I can't come to a decision on much. So that's probably why I think it's overrated. But another thing is I've seen a lot of stuff as well, like a lot of movies and whatever. So there's never a time I can really pinpoint, something that really grabs my attention. And yeah, I think there's too much. Sometimes too much is just
spoiled for choice.
Yeah, I don't like too much.
Well, I've got to say, mate, I 1000% disagree with you. I think
underrated.
Heavily underrated. And
okay.
I'll tell you why. And it's got nothing to do with the specific content on there, like you're discussing. I was looking at it more from like the concept of they were the first streaming service to bring so many different TV shows, movies, documentaries for $10 a month.
Yeah.
Compare it to what Foxtel used to be. I know it's changed in the last few years. Foxtel used to be like $100 a month, or a little bit less, a little bit more, depending on what your package was. And that wasn't available at any time. You're watching the Simpsons when they're on at 6 p.m. Unless you've taped it, you've missed it. But the fact that Netflix brought that whole idea of watch anything, anytime, stream it, has led all these other ones to do it too. Stan, Binge, Amazon. I don't even know what other ones there are, but Disney. Like there's other ones, I'm sure. But they were the first people in the marketplace to do it. All for $10 a month. They've got whole series of TV shows. They've got, and you're right, there are tons of movies, and there may be too many to choose from. But you know what it used to be like? It used to be a movie on Channel 7 Friday night 8:30, and that was it for the whole week.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Like, obviously, Netflix is, it's created a legacy, and it's allowed for other subscription services to, learn from that. But I'm purely just talking about how everybody is so wrapped up in Netflix and how good Netflix is and how good Netflix shows are and this and that. I'm just like,
That's why I said at the start I'll be interested to see how you interpret it, because if you're comparing it to like the other streaming services, maybe it is better, maybe it's not. But Netflix as on a whole, the fact that they started the trend and started, like I said, these other streaming services to do the same. $10 a month, and you can watch every episode of Animal Kingdom in 3 days.
The greatest show of all time.
It is.
Animal Kingdom.
But like the good old days of when I watched Prison Break, 4 seasons, 4 years, one episode.
Yeah, I get
one episode every Wednesday, once a year for 20 weeks in a row. Now you just binge watch that sucker, and you got it.
Yeah, I completely get it.
Weeks.
Don't ask me why, but when you were talking about, it's the first of this, first of that, I started comparing Netflix to Bill Russell.
Yeah, he was the first to do it.
Yeah, I was like, how many championships? You got 11 championships.
Yeah.
Something like that. I was just like, Bill Russell. Bill Russell must be the greatest of all time because he's on 11 championships.
He couldn't shoot though.
Anyway, but look, that's the beauty of discussion, because I can definitely see your point of view.
Yeah, good.
It's not like I'm not completely closed off and like, no, that's not it. Yeah, I completely understand.
If you compare it to Stan or you compare it to one of the other ones, maybe it's not like, because there is a lot of stuff on there that I'd never watched, but just the whole concept of it, I think very, very underrated.
Okay, that's interesting. That's good. All right, my last one, mate.
Yeah.
It's not a topic. I'm talking about a person.
Oh, Jamie Richardson.
Nah, not Jamie. I'm talking about and 10. Anyway, I'm talking about someone that's very well known, and I'm talking about their place in the GOAT status. So I'm talking about like that. They're always in the GOAT debate in their sport.
So explain what the GOAT is.
GOAT is the greatest of all time. So there's always who's the GOAT? Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Who's the GOAT? Is Tiger Woods the GOAT? Is Floyd Mayweather the GOAT of boxing? This and that, right? Okay, whatever. So there's always these greatest of all time debates. Now, I'm talking about one man in particular, and his name is Rafael Nadal. Is Rafael Nadal underrated or overrated in regards to the overall GOAT consensus, the debate?
He's not the GOAT.
No, but is he overrated as a overall player, or is he underrated, or is he rated? Do you think he's rated fair? Because he's regarded, Rafael Nadal, he's regarded as probably one of the 3 greatest male tennis players of all time.
If he's regarded in that, like if he's regarded in the top 3, I think he's properly rated. I think he gets enough credit for everything he's done, especially everything like the French Open and his longevity in the game and everything. I think he's right where he is. Like I think if he is the top 3 or top 5, I think he gets enough credit for being there. So I think he's right where he should be.
You think he's rated?
Yeah. But not. I think he's like an absolutely incredible tennis player. Like I'm not saying that he's average because he's properly rated, but I think he gets enough credit to justify where he's at.
Yep. Oh, that's interesting, mate. That's very interesting.
What do you think?
So, mate, I've got to say this before I say my answer. So, Rafael Nadal is my favorite tennis player of all time.
Right.
That's why I'm very passionate about this. And I was thinking long and hard about it, and it pains me to say that I think he's overrated in the overall grand scheme of things. So
tell me why.
He gets talked about. Okay, he gets talked about in the same wavelength as Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic, right? And I just, obviously all three of them have 20 Grand Slam titles, but 13 of them are on clay at the French Open, right? The other 7, he's got one Australian. I know this, right? But he's got 1 Australian Open title, 2 Wimbledons, 4 US Opens, which is amazing. He is one of the all-time great players, right? But I just think he should be on the same pedestal as somebody like maybe a Andre Agassi or a Boris Becker or something like that. The three that I think that are the most well-rounded tennis players of all time are Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, Pete Sampras. That's what we're talking about when we talk about who is the greatest. In my opinion, it really should just be 2. It should be either Roger or Novak. It's one or the other. Because
I when you said that he's regarded as in the top 3 of all time, I think that, well, in my opinion, he's not in the top. He's not the best, and he's probably not the second best.
But people argue that he's the greatest tennis player of all time, and I just think that's just completely out of the question.
Well, in terms of his dominance on clay,
yep,
that's one of the 4 Grand Slams, right?
Correct.
And that is one of the several surfaces that they play on.
Yep.
And for him to be that dominant, like in that one type of play, that goes a long way. Like for him to be, I think that, I don't know in more recent years, but there was a time when he'd lost like one game on clay in like a decade or something ridiculous like that. Like one game in a whole, or one match, I should say, not game.
Mm-hmm.
In a whole decade. So for him to be that dominant, and it's a big part of the game, like playing on clay.
Yeah,
I think he's earned his stripes. I wouldn't really, if people are considering him the greatest, I would say that that's not right, and he might be a bit overrated for that. But if he's in anything lower than what he's being talked about, I think he'd be underrated. So I think he's right where he should be.
See, I completely disagree there, because I think that in the sense of, so somebody that's, if we're talking in terms of cricket, for example, if someone's absolutely dominating purely 2020. They're just dominating the 2020 scene, like killing it, like on fire. Then all of a sudden people go, is he as good as Bradman? Like
that's different. Come on. That's different because
but it's not. It's one surface.
2020s have only been around for 10 years.
Doesn't matter.
Test
Same
matches
thing.
have been around for
it's a different format, different surface. Same thing.
But it would be like if the French Open only got introduced 10 years ago, and then we wouldn't have been going for a century.
Okay, let's talk about one-day cricket then.
Still different.
So it's a different. But it's like a different sort of game, different sort of like format, and it's the same with the surfaces, because only like a certain type of player it can really dominate on clay.
Okay, so
let's Rafael Nadal.
Yes, let's use that example then. So if someone was far and away the best one-day cricketer ever, like averaged 120. Bowled as well. Like it averaged 100, and they'd won, every single game that they played, and then they played Test match cricket, and they were just, they had a few centuries, but they weren't really a standout.
Let's talk, and they were okay.
What's
they
that?
were okay. If they were okay at Test match cricket,
yeah, like they scored. They were in the team always, and they scored a few hundreds, but they weren't like a Steve Smith or something.
Yeah.
Then they would be in the conversation of greatest of all time.
Or what, greatest all-round cricketer?
Yeah, if they were like as dominant as Nadal was on clay, absolutely.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I just think that Roger Federer is such a generational talent, and I just think Novak Djokovic is such a beast, and Pete Sampras was just unbelievable all round. I just think Rafael Nadal, unfortunately, even though he's my favorite player of all time, I just think overall in the GOAT status. Is he the GOAT? Should he be spoken about as the GOAT? Absolutely not. No.
Well, you probably know a little more about me in this topic because I probably would have considered those three players to be better. Like,
Yeah.
And I just think that all the props that Nadal gets is deserved, and he's
I agree.
One of the best, and I think that that's about where it ends. But I hadn't really heard that or know that people think he's the outside of like people from Spain or whatever who are like diehards.
Yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. You can't discredit the guy. Look, he's won 20 Grand Slam titles. Like he's won 20 of them. But I just think overall, like if you compare him, like I just don't think you can compare him to Roger and Novak. And I just think Sampra's probably all round as well. But for me, we've had this discussion before. It's always for me. It's always either prime Roger or prime Novak. Who am I taking? So
Novak's still rolling,
mate. I called this. People aren't. I'm going to say something controversial. No, some people haven't heard this take from me. I said it 5 years ago. I said that if the fate of the universe is on the line, and I need someone to win me a game of tennis, and I need them in their prime, I'm taking Novak Djokovic every day of the week.
Rafa does take the cake for having the most muscly left arm.
Oh, what about those cannons? Woo!
Cannon. His right arm's very normal. His left arm's just enormous.
You know what's crazy though? Speaking of Rafael Nadal, if he didn't sustain so many injuries, he could have maybe had like 25, 26 Grand Slam titles by now.
Yeah, he's had a fair few injuries.
Oh man, because he's just the way he has played the game is just so relentless, just chasing down everything.
Yeah, and the amount of
unbelievable
he puts on like every forehand and backhand.
He's a freak, mate. I absolutely love him.
Yeah, interesting conversation though.
Yeah,
I don't know how many tennis fans are listening, but if you are, I'd be interested to know what you think.
I think a lot of people that are tennis fans would probably disagree with me and say that the Fed is probably the GOAT of the sport. I agree. I think he's probably. Do you think GOAT and greatest is different? Like who the best player is and who the GOAT is? Do you think that's different?
That's a discussion for another day, I think, mate.
Is the GOAT status overrated or underrated? On Thursday's episode.
Is the acronym GOAT overrated or underrated?
We could do that, We actually could. See what happens.
Be interested to know what you all think if you have listened. We want to get some of your topics as well. Like, suggest what you want us to talk about. That'd be cool.
Just anything. It could be anything. Don't be shy.
Anything
Buffalo Bills. Are Buffalo Bills overrated or underrated? Hubba Bubbas. Anything. Doesn't matter. Whatever's on your mind.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll chat to you again tomorrow.
Thanks, gang.